My name's Chris.
And I'm Christy.
And this is the Washing Up Podcast, where tonight you'll probably have 7.5 hours of podcast and probably 4 animals.
I know. We've got a plague upon our house of pets.
So we have pets running rampant everywhere, and our attitude is, it's getting late. Go with it.
Yes.
So you'll probably have cat and dog commentary on this episode, but be that as it may, they've got a lot to commentate on, because, my God, we've got a lot of content.
I know, 2 nights, and holy shit. We've got contestants coming back. We've got, dinner with Heston. We've got bloody George getting himself back into my good books. It's insane. Yeah,
it's impressive. So we've got a mountain of stuff to talk about tonight. Legitimately a mountain of stuff. As you can hear, the dog's joining in already.
Leo is quite excited to have all the contestants back in the kitchen tonight. He was quite pleased to see Trent, who's his favourite.
Oh, Trent, yes, Ninja.
Trent.
The Ninja was everywhere tonight.
Yes, every time I go out the back to say hello to Leo, he goes, "How's Trent doing?" And I said, "I don't know, I haven't seen him because he's a ninja."
Yeah, exactly. That's always the problem.
Yeah.
So we've got to start with dinner with Heston last night. Mm-hmm. So dinner with Heston, 4 of them in the kitchen. Now, I do want to start with a really, for me, the most important point about last night. And it was something that I put out on social media this morning when there were some people sort of criticising some of the different cooks, and everyone got a bit of criticism all over the place for some reason that we can't work out. But what it came back to with me...
Yeah.
How many people normally work those passes for Heston?
I know. There is a lot of space in those kitchens. And I'm sure if you, look on Insta or the internets, you'd find pictures of dinner with Heston and where all the chefs are. I mean, if you see any of those kind of high-end restaurants with the open kitchens and stuff, you'll see that there's about 600 people working in the back. Where was it? I'm sure it was on a chef's table that I saw was one kitchen, and I'm sure it had more people in the kitchen than in the friggin' restaurant.
Yeah, it happens all the time. And so, for example, Tamara wouldn't have had to have done 40 individual individual servings of groper. It just wouldn't have happened.
No, there would be one person dedicated to filleting that groper.
Exactly. Diana wouldn't have had to have cut that much steak and then that much tongue by herself.
No. There'd just be someone there specifically for tongues. They'd be calling them the tongue specialist. Which
I was wondering where you were going with that for half a second.
If you went somewhere else on Collins Street, I'm sure there's another kind of tongue specialist, but they cost a lot more.
And I mean, look, Gaston probably still would have had to make all 105 steps of the Lamington cake himself.
I know. There's just one gun out the back for desserts.
I want a chocolate gun.
It's so awesome.
My thing that I took out of there are a couple of things I took out of last night. One, it just confirms what we all know, which is that Gaston is a machine. But
yeah.
2, and far more importantly, chocolate guns are cool.
You know what? I reckon Donald Trump isn't orange because he gets a spray tan. I reckon he just gets a chocolate tan. Because if I was fucking president of the United States, I'd be like, bring that shit on.
Spray me.
Spray me. I'm going to make chocolate great again.
So they had to draw out knives to see who did what order in the service.
Yep.
Carly got the first one, which was she did the frumenti.
Yes, she did.
Which was that interesting... I still can't quite piece together exactly what it is.
Basically grilled octopus hidden under a terrarium.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there's been a few terrarium dishes, but this was the most terrarium of them all.
I know. This was super terrarium.
So she got the first one. Then after that, we had Tamara. And yes. Tamara had the groper with green sauce.
Which did look really simple at first. I'm going, she's got the easy one. And then I realised she has to fucking fillet those bloody gropers.
And then they had 5 hours worth of prep, and it got to about hour number 4, and there's poor Tamara still cutting up fish. and looking at the onions going, now I have to... And when she was peeling the onions, she's not using... she's just using her bare hands.
It would be that.
And just ripping chunks of onion to pieces with her hands. And that's where he just came over and went... Just stop. It's already dead. It's already dead.
Sorry, that was me trying to do the Apocalypse Now music. It's not.
I said it's more like a flat line in general.
Okay, there we go.
So it still worked. The audience went with you. Diana made the beef royale, yes. Which I believe is in France is called a quarter pounder.
And you know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese?
Royale with cheese.
Royale with
you know what they call a beef royale with cheese in France?
What?
Quarter pounder with cheese. flipped, see, because
craziness.
Yeah. And then Gaston got the Lamington cake. And when you look at it, you go, oh, okay. And that was where even George Columbaris looked at it and went, so a Lamington cake, that looks pretty simple, doesn't it? And the chef goes, it's 105 steps.
And to which point they've gone, and how many steps were in the in what you said last year for Elena
for the grand final for Elena and Matt? Yeah.
And he's like, 95?
10 extra steps. Watching them all read those recipes, or in poor Diana's case at the start, not quite reading those recipes, was challenging enough. I mean, poor Ben and
half an hour to read that.
Half an hour to read 8 pages of recipe with 105 steps. It was fucking, and like the notes and the diagrams and the stuff they've got circled, and you're just going, wow, there's so much before you even cook anything. The amount of reading you had to do. And I mean, poor Diana tried to jump ahead a little bit.
Yeah. And
when she tried to jump ahead a little bit, that's where she accidentally cut the beef the wrong way.
Yeah, and I've done that kind of shit before where I've, usually when I get like a new like Lego thing to do, or helping one of my nephews or nieces with like one of their little boxes of craft shit, and it's like, oh, this is easy, you just no, and it's like, whoops, I cut off tab A. I didn't fold it.
I believe I said, oh, look, this looks easy when I was putting together Lego Dimensions.
Indeed.
And it was about 4.5 hours later, and there are photos of me just on the floor yelling at it.
And it wasn't necessary. We could have just played the game.
And we didn't end up actually playing the game. Because by the time I'd finally assembled the Lego Dimensions set, I was done.
Anyway, that's it for me with Lego Dimensions. I've seen too many.
I put it in a drawer. We've never got it out again since. So they all had those, and they were very complex dishes. And it was the time, it had 5 hours, or they all had 5 hours. And then it was the staggered service start, so it was half an hour after each.
Yep.
Carly's went off first, and everyone seemed to receive it quite well.
Exactly. Like, they were all under the pump. And then to see them, like, Carly serve up the first dish, they're like, oh, this is the best. And then Diana's came up after that, and they're like, oh, this is even better.
Well, Tamara's was second.
Oh, Tamara's, sorry.
And that was the problem, because poor Tamara was struggling.
Oh, that's right.
And yeah, so Diana's there doing hers, and Diana was struggling to get hers cooked properly, which she did eventually. But poor Tamara was trying to get hers up and ended up having to abandon the onion. And then Diana's came out, and it went really well. And then you're watching, and again, it's not just because we're massive fans of his, but I dare anyone last night to watch Gaston put together that Lamington cake and not be impressed.
Look, even if Donald Trump pulled that off, I would begrudgingly give it to him.
I was impressed with everybody last night, but
105 bloody steps.
The way that, and he was dead. He was done. He was done for at one point. And then, as he said towards the very end, I can now see the dishes starting to come together.
But you know what my favourite moment in that whole episode was? Is when he was told to smile. And I'm like, isn't that fucking annoying? See, men, when you've got, like, there's a lot of people on social media who complain about Diana looking grumpy all the time. It's like, she doesn't owe anyone a smile. She doesn't have to look happy to be happy.
No, Tamara's naturally bright and
bubbly
cheerful.
And chirpy.
That's her. Diana isn't. And in terms of looking bright and bubbly and cheery, that doesn't mean she's not. On the contrary, I think if you listen to her talk, she's very cheerful
and very lovely,
right, and very lovely. And I don't think that anyone is horrible and mean, but you don't have to smile. This is a pressure situation.
Exactly.
And you know how much of a pressure situation last night was.
When Tamara was not smiling at the end.
Tamara wasn't smiling.
There was no chirpy.
Like, Tamara was just looking. At one point, Tamara had this look on her face like, what the fuck is this?
Yes. Like, what seventh dimension of hell have you dragged me to?
Can I go back onto the back of the ute with the chalkboard and write up some menus there? That'd be good.
Yeah. I mean, something we need to touch on is the fact that, no, we'll get to the production values later. Wait,
no, we're about to talk about them now, because I thought the production values were insanely good.
To the point where they had a fucking MasterChef billboard clearly positioned.
They dual framed it. There was one where it was slightly subtle, and then the second shot wasn't subtle at all. It was in between. It was over George's head. So, like, they've got Gary standing there and Matt standing there framing it with George there, and George is the dip just to allow the perfect billboard with the three of their heads on it and MasterChef across
Are you
the
sure
middle
they
of it.
weren't playing that game, you know, the one that you had to
Celebrity
write-
Head?
Celebrity Head, that's right.
George is like, who am I?
And they're like, you.
You're a TV show.
Sorry. Am I Neighbours?
I'm Bake Off.
Yeah, am I on... Which network? No, that's right, it can be yes, no.
Yeah, yes or no.
Am I on the 9 network?
So, and he goes, George Columbaris presents. That's not a TV show. Ooh, I've said too much. Anyway, so, but there was one camera shot, and at the time I commented to you about it, we looked at it again. There was one camera shot where Carly walked into the one part of the kitchen behind Diana, around the side bench. It reminded me of, if you've ever seen the opening one shot of Goodfellas.
Yeah.
The opening one shot where he comes in the club and
they
does the
follow him.
full walk through, says hello to everyone, walks through the kitchen, walks
Yep.
through. It reminded me of the one shot of Goodfellas, but with more artistic stuff in the background than like a greasy kitchen.
I was thinking more of the John... Is it John Voight? What's his facey? The little bit of this, a little bit of that. This,
Yeah, weapon
this
of choice, Christopher Walken.
That's the one, Christopher Walken. It was Christopher dancing at that time.
It was Christopher dancing at that time, yes. No, I loved it. I thought some of the cinematography was absolutely spectacular. I love the positioning, though, too. The restaurant's positioned so beautifully that, like, when Gary comes in to start finding out what they've got left to do, and the flames from out the front of Crown are going off in the window. At one point, you may have thought they set the kitchen on fire. But to give you an idea about how much, how much work Gaston was putting in there, again, he was in a different kitchen.
Uh-huh.
Because they go, 1 hour gone, and then hey, Ben, did you hear that? 1 hour gone. He's like, yeah, I got you. And I loved the way he's like, there's no vodka in this recipe. Rereads the recipe. Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah. I'll just whack it in.
I forgot to put the vodka in. Oh, well, mix it in now. But I don't think I've ever seen 4 contestants in anything look so destroyed.
Uh-huh.
I dare you to find anybody on bloody Ninja Warrior on Channel 9 that is that destroyed. They were mentally and physically just wrecked.
Exactly. Like, I have an admiration for everyone's stamina in MasterChef because, like, all the challenges are physically demanding, plus the filming days, are so long that...
And you've got the unrealistic sort of idea that you're the only person working a pass making 40 serves of a really complex dish. It's a hell of a lot.
Yep. So kudos to them.
And I thought everyone handled it amazingly well. Even, again, look, Tamara's didn't go to plan, and she knew it didn't go to plan. But, again, I just had such extra levels of admiration for her after watching what she went through and watching what she put up. I was just genuinely amazed by it.
And the good thing about that, like, I really enjoyed that challenge last night as well because it was a reward challenge. It wasn't if you do the worst, you're eliminated.
It would have been really... I mean, look, we've talked about some weird eliminations this year. Hey, Eloise. The idea of going home on the back of an egg yolk.
Yes.
But
that was Eliza, wasn't it?
No, it was Eloise with the pulling it out.
Oh, that's right.
Filling it up.
Yes.
And there's been some weird challenges I've sent people home on, but you'd feel really shitty if you were sent home on Dinner by Heston.
I know.
It's like, come on, 40 of those? No, you can't send me home on that.
Yeah.
So that got us into, then they had to work out who was going through to semi-finals, and I didn't get emotional.
No, they weren't tears in your eyes.
They weren't tears. It was a high pollen count day.
Yes, I think the onion sweat from
the onion that Tamara didn't plate up, we had, and it got him. Damn it, I was emotional.
But the whole thing, even from the outset, my anxiety levels just went up.
Yeah, you were highly anxious watching it. When
I can't do this.
Not put on. There were a couple of times where Christy looked away from the TV, looked at me, and went, "I don't think I can do this tonight."
I don't do sports, right? But cooking shows, I get emotionally invested with. It's quite...
Yeah, there was just this moment where she just looked. I can't do this. I can't watch this tonight. I don't think I can do it. And I'm like, we're almost there. Can't watch this tonight. And we did, and thankfully we did, because
it was a good payoff.
My, what a guy!
Just pulled it out of the bag, didn't he? Didn't just serve up 40 plates, but served up 40 fucking perfect plates.
It was
Yeah.
The way that he managed to just do that was incredible. And look, he deserved it. He really deserved it.
And their only critique was, the Lamingtons are a little bit more brown. And it's like, well, if I had a fucking chocolate gun, they'd be black. You know, they would be so dark.
What percentage of cocoa are these? 100? No, sorry, we're wrong. 105. And how can be? Just trust us on this.
Me.
It's 105% cocoa. So that gets us into the elimination tonight. Now, the elimination obviously then means it's Carly, it's Tamara, and it's Diana.
Yeah.
Now, the good news for everybody out there at home, we open with a Vespa shot.
Thank God.
We're getting better and better shots of the Vespa too. And the MasterChef account's starting to troll me. Because the MasterChef account is now responding whenever I comment on the Vespa and saying, yep, we wouldn't have it any other way. And they've got the judges applauding. And I keep on putting it out there, and I'll put it out there again on this podcast in case anyone happens to hear it who has any position of power. MasterChef, I want a GIF of the Vespa. I'm not asking for much. You talk about hero ingredients? The Vespa is the hero ingredient of your introduction and opening shot. I want a hero Vespa GIF. I could probably put one together myself, but I'm far too lazy for that, and I've got other things to do like podcast and complain about the fact that I don't have a Vespa GIF.
I'd like to see someone do a dodgy Vespa GIF. Just
not a random Vespa, the MasterChef Vespa. Okay, don't just send me a random picture of a Vespa. I can find one of those. Right, so this call goes out to the MasterChef account. I know you're probably not listening, but if by some form of osmosis you hear this, I want a GIF of the Vespa, or at the very least, video proving that it moves.
Why don't you start a petition?
Hashtag save the Vespa.
Yeah. Hashtag gift the Vespa.
Give the Vespa a chance.
Yeah, give the Vespa a chance.
All we are saying is give the Vespa a chance. I don't know if it'll catch on, to be honest with you. It doesn't scan properly.
And if I do catch you putting a petition together on change.org, I will smack you over the head with something.
And then you'll put together a petition to have me removed as host of the Washing Up.
Yes.
Have me replaced with somebody like Eloise or just somebody else, a bit high class.
Well, Leo was having a bit to say tonight, so I might bring him on.
Yeah, go with Eloise. She does poetry.
Yeah, she does do poetry. I'll get Eloise. If I can't get her, I'll get Taylor on, my niece.
There you go. There you go. And of course, there's always the option of the wonderful Beck Popchi.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Actually, you two can just do it. What do you know me for? I'm out of here. No, okay. I better finish. I better finish this episode off. Yeah. And by finish it, I mean start the second challenge.
Yes.
Because there's a lot to get through. So it was a design your own challenge. Now we had differing views on this one, and the differing views were that my view was, I liked it the first time they did it. Mm-hmm. But by this point in time, I'm just thinking they didn't want to be bothered to put together anything for the last week.
Whereas I think it's the best challenge you could put forward because, you know, what's worse than having constraints? Too much choice.
What's worse than that?
What?
Producers being really lazy in the last week of MasterChef.
They're being crafty and canny.
Or lazy.
Oh, well, you know, they needed a break after dinner by Heston at least. Because if the contestants are running around, imagine doing that for that many hours with a fucking camera strapped to you. Like, that would be insane.
Yeah, the Steadicam guys. I mean, tip of the hat Steadicam guys.
Like, how bloody fit must those dudes be?
They're insane. So they all had to design their own challenge. Now, Gaston is in the kitchen by him. Now, there was a great shot at the start, by the way. They're all in the house, and they're all sitting around the table, and the girls are looking pensive and and Gaston's just there doing the washing up. You know, and again, I like to think that's an ode to us. I mean, he didn't...
Yes!
He didn't know us at this point in time, but...
You know, there's the washing up.
I'd like to think it was an ode to us, the Gaston.
Little wink.
Yep, little wink. I know you guys. We love you guys. It was a tip of the hat, not a wag of the finger. It was a tip of the hat.
Yes.
So
there's a fan from our Bake Off podcast.
Yeah, there we go. He was there doing the washing up while the girls were looking at each other rather pensively. And then he really did, and I put this out there, and again, I was mucking around on social when I said it, so I was waiting to see if anyone was going to bite at me and yell at me, because, you know, it's been that sort of social the last few weeks. I said, I hope you all realise that Gaston's doing more work than anyone in that kitchen. He's the solo support crew for 3 people. He had to walk up and down the gantry calling out to everybody as he went. Well done, yep, well done, Diana. Yep, well done, yep, that looks great tomorrow. That was great tomorrow. Carly, well done. Yeah, push, Polly, push. Tomorrow, well done. He must have been exhausted.
Exactly. Like this, the only other time when we had more people on the gantry than less people on the gantry than we had down below, I think was that time when there was 3 or 4 up in the gantry, and there was that big elimination a couple of weeks
Everyone
back.
else is being eliminated, and there were 3 left. Yeah. So Diana decided to do the Thai style broth with crayfish, and let's face it, if
there's a broth involved,
everybody has their sort of signatures they do, and for Diana the broth has sort of become it, and that's fair enough because she does an amazing broth.
And again, not only did she go for something that she is proficient in, but she also showed that she'd extended from that, as she showed with that the lime leaf oil, which looks so pretty.
Yeah, so she did an absolutely amazing job of that, putting the broth together and all those sorts of things. Tamara decided to do something, as she put it, one of the best moments I've had in Broome. Campfire brownie. And I love the fact that they were looking for all these other high-end names, all this stuff, and when they got to the end and asked Tamara what it was called, before they even finished saying what have you called? Campfire brownie. Campfire brownie. She was like, you're not changing it, it's a campfire brownie. Not calling it choc brownie in hint of orange and campfire brownie. Now,
see, that to me just makes me think that she was at a Girl Guide camp once, and instead of they didn't have any alfoil, so they put their cake mix in the orange because they didn't have the alfoil. Now, and again, it's supposed to be like that. It should have been burnt on top, then it would have been perfect. It would have been a real campfire.
I did think about that at the time, the idea of what she said. I put it on the hot coals, and I'm sitting there thinking that's a bit different to the oven. That could be quite intriguing as to how that cooks.
Yeah, and so it was. I admired her for going out on a limb.
I like the fact she did something that was her, and as she said, it's kitschy, it's camp, it's me.
Yes, and it
fair enough.
Was.
Fair enough. Go out on your shield. And Carly, speaking of going out on your shield.
Oh, pork and fucking chili galore.
Now, something that we learned tonight.
Yes.
Do you know Carly spent time in China?
This never gets old.
What do you mean never gets old? I never knew that Carly spent time in China.
I always tweeted that tonight
Apparently.
on the tweeters. And she's like, oh my God, Ben's got a Dutch background heritage.
Yeah, I knew that. I mean, speaking of that, it said Carly, Chinese. I mean, it doesn't look very Chinese, but apparently extremely Chinese. And she talked about spending a lot of time in the back alleys of Shanghai, where apparently I'm going with she's down one kidney.
Oh, come on. She didn't talk to the locals and get told where to go, so there is a good chance.
Well, she said the phrase at one point that, Dad and I used to go out and we'd go down the back alleys and we'd get told all these places to go and eat, and we'd find 10 amazing little hole-in-the-wall restaurants. And I'm thinking to myself, 9 of them were probably hole-in-the-wall restaurants. That 10th one was a surgery clinic.
However, worth it.
Yeah, again, if the meals are good, I'll give the kidney up.
Yeah.
But I mean, she did crispy pork belly, which I love, and more importantly, she did her own homemade XO sauce, which gave me 5 Pims to the Wind Preston and what I'm referring to as the chilly look of regret.
Yes.
Because he's casually talking and she does the whole, it could be a bit hot. And he's casually talking and he takes the spoon and he keeps talking and he puts the spoon in his mouth. And there's a pause where it's all normal.
Yes.
And very quickly, it's no longer normal.
And Carly's like, what have I done? And I've yelled at the TV, you've killed National Treasure Matt Preston with chili. That's what you've done.
And it was the way he looked at her and the eyes just bulged and the cheeks came in like he'd just eaten a lemon. And he's like...
But not only that, but he was continuing to talk to her afterwards.
He was still saying...
He's still suffering.
He was still saying, so you might need to balance that a little bit. It was one of the moments of the series.
Oh,
this was nearly killing National Treasure Matt Preston.
What would the Pims company have done then?
Well, I believe he's moved on from Pimm's now. I mean, they're still working for the same corporation, but what is he doing now? He did Bailey's the other week. There's another one he was doing last week.
Yeah.
There's another. It's just booze.
Next week it's going to be like Passion Pop.
Matt Preston for Passion Pop. When I feel like something that won't remotely get me drunk,
yes,
I have this sweet nectar.
It takes me back to schoolies.
Let's go
1965.
Let's pour them before the game. Matt, what game are they playing, Matt? What game is this, Mr. Preston? If you've ever seen that Pimm's commercial, by the way, I dare you to tell me what big game Matt Preston is about to go watch. Because I don't know. He's just wearing random Australian colours and he's about to go watch the game.
Well, it's Pimm's, so it's got to be something
I'm going
like
rugby union.
Oh, I was going to say something 1920s.
Lacrosse?
Like
Lacrosse. He's off at the lacrosse.
Yes.
Australia, of course, having
Tug of war.
Australia, of course, having the badminton final.
Yes. What are those?
Shuttlecocks ahoy, ladies and gentlemen.
What are those like random, Olympic sports that no longer exist?
Poetry. He was at a poetry slam night. So, anyway, back to the cooking.
You should have seen the similes fly.
George said at one point, I don't want to say the ball's in their court, but it is. Thanks, George. You know what? If you didn't want to say the ball's in their court,
You didn't have to say it.
just don't say it. No one's forcing you. There's no one forcing. We'll talk about you forcing people in a minute to do something, but we'll come back to that. So, one of the conversations of the day, and it was just subtle, was where Tamara's like, how long to go? And Ben's like, that's okay, come on, Tamara, 15 minutes, under 15 minutes left. And she goes, what? He goes, under 15 minutes. And she looked up and went, under 15, and then just looked down at the counter and went, shit.
That was glorious.
And it was just the way, it was this understated shit. Not a big deal out of it. It was just this resigned, I'm done for.
You know who would have been proud of that moment?
Sweary Canary?
Sweary Canary.
Whose jumper game probably would have been on point too.
Yeah,
Granted, she probably would have been wearing, a giant dog, which is...
Imagine if you combined Tamara and Fee together. They would have this awesome jumper and earring game.
They'd have this bright and bubbly personality that'd swear their head off at you.
And every dog
Every dog inside, exactly. Yeah. That'd be incredible. Mm-hmm. Scientists, get with it. So anyway, we need to have a quick talk. We talked about production values earlier.
Yes.
And we talked about the general production values. We need to talk about Music Guy.
Music Guy. He is the underrated hero of MasterChef.
I'm sure he's a little bit crazy. I'm sure that he's gone slightly insane.
Do you think he's like the Seinfeld slap bass guy who wore the cricket jumper
while he was pushing the keys on the keyboard? Yeah.
And that's his voice, by the way. He's like, I made those noises.
Out of my mouth.
Yes.
So, MasterChef Music Guy. I mean, the music cues at the start of the series are really easy. There's this is going really well music cue. This has gone quite badly music cue. They're the two music cues, and then there's the melange of mediocrity that goes through.
Yeah.
And that's just sort of the da 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 da, and it just like runs through everybody.
Yeah.
You're not important enough to have anything important music wise. We're not changing the tone for you.
But tonight, it went to another level.
He frequently hits the good music, bad music, good music, bad music, mediocre music, bad music, good music, bad music.
It's like, you're toying with me, music dude.
Either that or he just... Maybe Music Guy had a bit of a health problem and collapsed on his keyboard.
I hope not.
And that's why all the music cues were changing.
Do you think he got some of Carly's exo sauce?
Yeah, the exo sauce. Help! But he's just slapping the keyboard. And then they're like
side gigs to do the music.
And they're like, quick, recut the show so the music makes sense.
But I just noticed that it was a level up tonight when Carly's chopping up her pork like after it's been cooked, and it's like there's that dun music that kind of goes with when the time pressure's on, but it was that to another level. It's like a remix.
Yeah. Without a guy yelling out remix at the start of it. So let's get to the judging.
All it needed was Pitbull.
So we'll start with the judging, and we'll start with Carly.
Yes.
Now, Carly comes in and says, I think this is a dish that my dad would really enjoy, to which I yelled at the screen, well, as long as your dad's a judge in this, Carly, you're fine.
You're sorted.
Unfortunately, I don't think that Carly's dad was a judge.
No. Unless George Columbaris...
No. I can't see George Columbaris getting along with people in China.
Okay. Maybe Gary.
No, Gary would stand out. And
So
Matt
you
Preston would definitely stand out in China. He
All
stood
right.
out in Japan.
All right, so maybe they're her adopted parents.
Let's go with that. You know, it's like in Japan where you can adopt adult children.
Can you?
Yeah.
Can we adopt one?
Wealthy families in Japan will frequently adopt male children. This is, by the way, 100% true. Wealthy families in Japan will adopt people to become part of their family, so the bloodline continues in terms of the company. So,
But it's not a bloodline.
no, but they do it so the family name continues on. So basically,
They're like Roman emperors.
so basically, they pick the next in line for their company and then adopt him at like age 23.
Wow.
Yeah, common practice.
Wow, that is very much like a Roman emperor. Good. It worked for them until they got to what's his facey.
Now, the first person actually judged was Diana. That was Carly just beforehand. So the first person judged was Diana. And every now and then you get a moment which is pure Columbaris. This moment was ultimate Columbaris. So sit down and what they said to all of them was, what's the dish, what's the concept, and what's the hero ingredient? So they sit her down and, she says, says what she's made, says that the crayfish is the hero ingredient, says it's Thai, obviously, and talks about the idea that it came from her, growing up as a girl and her mum and dad cooking. And she's telling the story. She's told the story before, and she just tells the story quite normally. Yeah. And George is like, so tell us about this, and she's again telling the story quite normally. And George leans across the table and goes, and tell us about, mum and dad. And at that moment was when I commented on at this point in time, George basically said, but the most important thing is making you cry. I mean, the concept. And I then tweeted out, Diana, you better give him what he wants or he'll reach over the table and stab you for tears. And sure enough, Diana did eventually bring forth the tears.
Thank goodness.
And sobbed. And I'm happy for her because I'm really happy for her health. I don't think she would have gone very well going into like semi-finals, like minus a hand. Because Columbaris just went, cry for me, slice.
But whenever they're pressuring anyone, they usually pick a woman to pressure to cry. Like, when I notice in cooking shows, when a guy cries, it's usually spontaneous and it's authentic and it's not pressured. But when they're looking for someone to cry, they're really ranking on the women. It's like, come on.
Now, Carly was worried about the XO sauce. She shouldn't have been.
No.
It was incredible.
Oh.
And the judges loved it.
So
Matt Preston was even so non-traumatised, he was able to go back and have more.
Yeah. It's like, it worked. It finally worked. Or maybe his whole face was numb from having tried it before and he couldn't tell.
Now, the downside for this was that they said Tamara's got to nail this. And I put out a tweet earlier in the night where I said, I love what Tamara's done, but because she's done something the judges will see as being a bit more simple, if something goes wrong, she's gone.
Yeah.
Because the others had more technical stuff in them. That's not to say that Tamara's wasn't a good idea. On the contrary, I think it was a great idea. But you have to then absolutely nail it, because if you make a mistake on something the judges see as easier, you're done. And Tamara, basically before she went, that brownie's not cooked.
Yeah. And the thing is, like that dish, give her time. She'll perfect it. It'll be on her broom cafe.
It will be in the broom cafe. I think so.
Which I hope is full of actual brooms.
Brooms, yes, exactly. It's just sort of brooms around the outside. Actually, the whole thing is just made of woven
Nimbus 2000 hanging pride of place in the centre.
Hanging beautifully. But she walked in and she knew it was raw. She knew it wasn't cooked in the middle. And when they brought it out, when they were doing the judging, and they said, we love this, we love this, we love this, and they looked at her and went, but. And she just went, and George went, and she went, I do.
I know. Yeah.
It's like, we prefer our brownie cooked.
Yeah, but, if it wasn't cooking competition, you'd so fucking love that. Like, who doesn't like a half-cooked brownie? It's gooey and delicious, and just, am I the only one?
No, I like a gooey brownie, but that was beyond gooey. That was drinkable.
Yeah.
There's gooey and then there's drinkable.
All right.
That was drinkable.
That should have been eaten with a spatula off the side of the mixing bowl.
Yeah, it was the mixing bowl. It was
Okay.
like, can I lick the beaters? If she'd actually just put it on a beater,
Oh, that
she could have served it on a beater.
Because, like, plates are overrated at times. It's like, just serve it on a beater.
What are you? What are you, the owner of a trendy Newtown cafe?
Yeah, you know.
That's Newtown, by the way, in Sydney, which we visited because we never say where we live.
No.
We never do that. Sydney, city of adventure and excitement. Except once you get past a certain part of the night when the doors are... Anyway, we're moving on.
Okay. So, we come to an elimination and have to farewell Tamara. And something happened at this point that made you a little annoyed.
Okay.
Yep.
Not a shot at Tamara in the slightest.
Hells no.
Not a shot at Tamara in the slightest. But I really hope that whoever goes home next
Gets as big a fanfare.
gets the treatment that Tamara got on the way out the door.
Yep.
Because the producers would have to know... I mean, I know this was filmed ages ago, but the producers would know now that there's been a slight reaction on social media about Tamara and people claiming favouritism, which we don't necessarily believe. We don't believe that there's necessarily been favouritism. We think that she was on a lot early because she's got a bright personality.
Yeah.
Then she had a bit of a dip. Then she's come back and cooked really well. So we don't necessarily think there's the level of favouritism. But
there's been a lot of shoddy calls.
There have been.
It's not just been
there have been.
Tamara.
It's been for everybody, and it's been across the board. But the producers would have to know that was out there.
Yeah.
So why they decided to leave in the bit where they decided to finish off her dishes by bringing out the chalkboard and doing it's all from your restaurant and doing this big farewell thing where they gave her a chalkboard with all her great dishes on it and talked about how brilliant she was. They haven't
who
done...
wanted to have a booking at her cafe.
Yeah, all these people want to book at your cafe and this is what we're going to do and this and this. They haven't done it for anybody else. No. And again, it's not about a Tamara thing. It's legitimately not. My only concern is that for people at home watching it, they look at that and go, they do favour her.
Yeah.
And whoever goes home next, if you went home next and they just went, oh, well, you've been a great cook.
Too bad, so sad, see you later.
You know, unfortunately, you've missed out just before
no
the final.
For you.
Bye. Then, you know, you'd feel pretty bad. There was a lot of fuss, and my only thing was, it's a one-in. You've got to do it for everyone. You can't do it for one and then not for everybody else. So my only thing would be that it's again, consistency, which is something we've said a lot this series, consistency. But, you know, again, it was a lovely touch, and it was a beautiful thing they did.
Yeah.
But especially since it's her second elimination.
Well, maybe they'll try to sweeten it.
It kind of lost a little bit of the luster because it was the second time that although she's never actually, and we pointed it out to her tonight on Twitter, she's never actually gone home.
She essentially did a U-turn and came back to stand on the gantry.
So, which brought you to a disturbing theory that you had about Tamara.
She's being held prisoner by MasterChef. Because
I'm with you.
I reckon she's the heir to some big, vast fortune, and Channel 10's in receivership, and they're just, like, holding her hostage.
Now, we've offered.
Mm-hmm.
We know that you probably can't publicly get in touch with us. But if you want to send us coded messages to let us know, if we know a ninja.
We do know a ninja who's quite good at infiltrating the MasterChef headquarters.
Yep, he's been infiltrating. He did it tonight. He jumped into shot at one point, which was absolutely fantastic, and he was in all black.
He was, and as he said on Twitter, came straight off ninja shift.
So Trent can get you.
Yeah.
So just give us a nod and a wink, and we will get you out of there in a jiffy tomorrow.
Because the most logical place they're holding you is in the pantry.
Because you know what's going to further your theory?
What?
What's next?
There's the what's it called, challenge, the service challenge.
The service challenge followed by?
The grand final.
And what happens at the grand final?
There's confetti.
And also all the past contestants.
Are there?
Including Tamara, who will still be trapped in the MasterChef kitchen. They won't let her out.
So we need to look for clues that she's being held prisoner.
We need to find something. So Tamara, again, if you need to be if you're still there, if you're still trapped in Melbourne, in the kitchen, I know it said you were working at Key and all those things. If you're still trapped, let us know.
Yeah, we'll get Trent over.
We're here for you. Trent will do it.
Yeah.
Trent will do it. I have experience. I can't talk about it, but nudge, nudge. Anyway.
I've watched movies.
We then got...
I can do the Catherine Zeta-Jones through the lasers.
Through the lasers? That was what I was going to do. I was going to do that. Do you want to do the Sean Connery bit?
Okay, I'll be the Sean Connery.
Cool, I'll be the Catherine Zeta-Jones ducking through lasers.
Excellent, perfect.
Sweet! All right, it's the role I was born to play. So then we get to... Look, we love you all contestants, and Dinner with Heston in particular is one of the best things I've ever watched on television. But my God, this was good.
Why, yes, I thought tonight was fantastic.
I didn't say you had to do the Connery voice non-stop.
But okay, let's not.
That was more Peter Harvey than Sean Connery.
Canberra.
There you go, much better. So, okay, the mystery box.
Awesome!
Shannon, George, and Gary. Okay, a couple of things in this were absolutely spectacular. First of all, the naughty chair. What they should have done was had the cage that they put all their appliances in.
The naughty cage.
And then they could have given George like one of those metal cups and he could have run it up and down like Martin Prince in the episode of The Simpsons. Now, I love the way they went and picked the ingredients.
I was yelling at the TV, get licorice! Gaston, get licorice!
And he got licorice.
Woo!
Carly. They love pork loin. Let's get him pork loin.
I just wanted to see her turn around in a swivel chair with a white cat.
And it was worth it to see George Columbaris' face when pork loin appeared. That was just worth it alone.
Yeah.
The contestants have mastered those mannerisms.
Yes.
Diana in particular
was an absolute fourth judge.
Diana was an absolute superstar with the way that she managed to slam everybody. It was beautiful.
Walking up to Shannon Bennett, tasting the tomato sauce. Might need to check the seasoning on that.
Yeah, it was great. George, though, I don't like the man most of the time. However,
his self-depreciating humour tonight won me over.
The basil ice cream.
Yes, when he done that, I'm like, this is fucking perfect. Someone done an ice cream.
And then Gary was far more subtle about it, but Gary's moment where he was talking up street food.
Yes.
And Sarah's like, Gary's talking about street food, but he doesn't have any of the ingredients for street food. It's like, I'm just going to replace like chilies with pepper, and I'm just... and just the way that Gary did it was just so brilliant.
Yeah.
And Shannon Bennett not being able to make a blender work.
Yes. How does this work?
Am I doing something wrong? Gary calling up to Tamara to find out how to make roti.
He's come down here and make it for me.
And then asking everyone in the gantry, what do I do? Do I roll it or do I pull it?
And then like simultaneously have people say roll and fold.
and Tamara's like giving advice from the gantry about how to do it.
And there was a moment when Gary kind of turned towards the gantry and goes, please, roti gods. And I'm thinking, what is Tamara like a roti deity now?
That might have been why they're keeping her there.
Oh my God, they're trying to steal her roti god powers.
Exactly. George had all this illegal equipment under the bench.
This is Carly with a confiscate. Must have taken you back to school.
It did, and then they'll put him on the naughty chair. I love George on the naughty chair, just they're going, oh, come on, I got bread to make. Now, when George got a little bit behind and couldn't quite work out what he was doing, that was the moment where Gaston had his big break.
Yes.
Where he walks up behind him and grabs him by the shoulder. You're all right, mate, you can do this. And gives him a George pep talk. It was glorious. George getting a George pep talk. Diana, again, the way that she took to the judging was spectacular. I thought that the hug, the judges at the end, when they finished, and they did the full contestant, including the skipping jump.
Yeah.
And they, like, George is there jumping up and down like the contestants do when they hug each other. It was beautiful. I loved when Shannon Bennett came up and they said, what have you done? Smoked tomato soup with poached pork and basil. And then he looks at them and goes, and I've got to tell you, that pork's a bit overcooked. And Gary and George are jumping at their benches. Yeah! Like hand over mouths and jumping. And then George presented his basil tomato pippy juice and with basil ice cream. And then Gary comes up.
Oh, no, you forgot the moment where they've gone, I see you've taken inspiration from one of our favourite former contestants.
Oh, yes, and Callan bowed down to Callan. And there is that moment, and there is a GIF out there which you do, everyone needs to make viral. It's the bit where he's bowing with his hands, where Callan's bowing to everyone. It was just it was brilliant. And then the line of any series of MasterChef, the line that was so good that I'm sure we're going to hear it again at some point in MasterChef.
Yes.
And I'm quite sure that Gary Meehan's about to have it put on his business card. You are the ultimate flavour elevator.
Loving an elevator.
Diana with that, and he goes, and he says, George has on his business cards Dream Maker.
Yeah.
I want ultimate flavour elevator. And it did remind me of the idea at the end of Willy Wonka and, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with the elevator going out the ceiling.
You expected Gary.
Gary jumps in an elevator in the MasterChef kitchen and off he goes, spreading flavour wherever.
He's like the meagre reign of people with these extra flavour sachets.
And the other thing that he did, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, by the way, was he even gave it a backstory.
That's right, he did.
Like, Gary gave his dish a backstory.
He should have brought his grandmother into it, though. That would have just taken it to another level.
Now, what it did was confirm for me what I've always known, which is Gary Mean's my favourite chef in that kitchen. And he's the best chef in that kitchen. Then we had the relay challenge.
Oh, I love that.
Now, first of all, because this is a Coles extravaganza, Curtis Stone must compete.
Oh, that was brilliant getting Curtis in. But it took me back to my, you probably did it at your high school too, it's probably done everywhere. But when you get to year 12 and it's almost, time to leave, you do a students versus teachers game, and ours is always softball.
No, we used to do contact sports, which is probably a bad call at a boys' high school. That was a bad call.
It was like Monty Python with the teachers versus the students.
The rugby game. No. We actually used to do quite well. The only goal I ever scored, remember, I was a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
The only goal I ever scored was in teachers versus students year 12 game.
What, as a teacher?
No, as a student.
Okay.
I scored against the teachers.
Nice.
Granted, I was on the goal line and the goalkeeper was nowhere to be found, but my God, what a shot. Cannon over right foot from Buchanan in the top corner. And by top corner, I mean I rolled it across the line. So you had, what I referred to in round one was the machine versus the workhorse.
Yes.
Because you had Gary, the workhorse, versus Gaston, the machine. And his filleting, and the girls had a sound strategy, which is he can fillet better than we can.
Yep.
So let's just let him fillet it.
Exactly.
And I love what happened with the celebrity chef team, which was nobody bothered to cook the fish.
Let's leave that to last.
Just like Gary's like, I decided that I'll leave the fish. Gary's like, I'll leave it for Curtis. Curtis goes,
I'll leave it for George.
I left it for George. George is like, I should probably cook the fish now, shouldn't I?
Wrap it in a station.
So it was a really well done. All three of them, Carly made that bread that was incredible.
Yeah.
Everybody did really well.
Yeah.
But
as soon as Diana said tamarind sauce, my mouth just started to water.
And the thing is that, normally they do it, it's a draw. They did the draw again, but then they also got Gary over to taste the dishes, and that was so they could give the contestants a bit of a pep.
Yeah.
Give them a bit of a lift in
But
the
it was, I honestly think it was worth it, because if you look at the judges' dish compared to the contestants' dish, there was more kind of cohesion with the contestants' dish. And the judges' dish didn't have enough fish on it.
The judges just look great, but that's because, George can plate up. That's what he does.
Yeah.
That is what he does. That's why they put him last. They went, you can plate. That's what you do. But Carly's not bad at it. So what this leads us into is the two nights of grand final.
No.
So we start with what they call the first night of the grand final, otherwise known as the semi-final, where two people will go through to the grand final after their big service challenge.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's... Okay, so there's 20 people they've got to serve. Mm-hmm. Is it one course or two courses?
Two courses.
Two courses for 20 people, so that is 40 dishes.
Yep.
And
it's like dinner with Heston all over again.
Yeah, but I'm sure they're going to have a bit more time. Oh, they won't.
They won't have a bit more time. What they may have is, like, less weird things.
Yeah, but it's going to be crazy.
It's also going to be a kitchen they're familiar with.
Yeah, that's true. So there's
they're probably going to have a choice in the dishes. Not so much you've got to cook something that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I've made it perfectly plain. I am going into the grand final, and I would be happy with anyone winning it. Any of these three.
Look,
I got 2 of the 3 right for the grand final. Thank you, Sarah. And my 4th choice for the grand final. Thank you, Eloise.
But it's good to see 3 people who all have strengths and a passion for food there.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be because anyone screws it up. I think someone's going to win it.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm hoping to see Sunday night is 3 contestants go in and produce 6 amazing dishes.
Yep.
And get pushed in their test because we don't want them to make this easy.
No.
And then just
The last challenge.
To go through.
The last challenge becomes spaghetti on toast.
Yeah. My worst fear would be one person does really well and 2 people fail. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, that'd be
awkward for the grand final. So,
yeah.
But we'll find out anyway. So we will be back on Sunday night to talk about what happened in the first part of the grand final, and then not on the Tuesday, obviously, on the Monday to do the final episode.
Absolutely, it's bittersweet, isn't it?
It is, and then hopefully we'll have a few more things for you. Obviously, we're still working on little ideas. We've got irons in the fire.
We're going to still do fucking Ray Watch at some point.
Ray Watch may happen. Ray Watch may not happen. Ray, if you're listening to this, get in touch. We may just use you on Ray Watch instead.
See what you've been up to.
So we'll talk to you about what you've been up to, Trent. If you're hiding in the background of the room, feel free.
Yeah.
But again, we are here to entertain. We do what we can. So this has been a long episode because
it's been a
long couple of days. So yeah, my name's still Chris.
And I'm still Christy.
And we'll still catch you all later. Catch ya.
Ciao.